2 months ago, I compared the Rokid Style to the Ray-Ban Meta and basically said Meta was the better buy. And I still think Meta is the more polished product. But after living with both longer, the one I've actually been reaching for more surprised me. Partly because Rokid fixed some of my biggest complaints, and partly because I realized comfort matters more to me than polish in daily use. And I think that changes who should actually buy what. And just to be clear, I'm not someone who has an axe to grind with Meta. I own the Gen 1, the Gen 2, the Oakley Vanguards. I use the display glasses nearly every day. So when I say I've been reaching for the Rokid more, that genuinely surprised me. I want to walk through that honestly. The stuff that genuinely reversed, the stuff I just prioritized differently having used both together for 2 months, and the stuff that's still true and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Let me start with the clearest reversal from my January review. I said that despite all the marketing about an open ecosystem, you couldn't actually change the AI model on the Rokid. You were just as locked in as you are with the Meta. That was accurate in January. It's no longer true. On my US setup, I can now switch between ChatGPT and Gemini right in the app. Rokid has also publicly positioned the platform around DeepSeek and Qwen, and some people in other geographies report seeing those too. The way I've set it up, ChatGPT for general queries. Hey Rokid, explain the Black-Scholes model to me.
The Black-Scholes model estimates the fair price of a European call or put option. At its heart, it assumes a stock's price behaves like a randomly wandering path that tends to drift upward over time.
Gemini for visual interactions. Hey Rokid, can you tell me what plant this is?
This lovely green companion is a pothos, specifically a golden pothos. They are wonderfully resilient and famous for being nearly impossible to kill, making them perfect for adding a bit of life to your indoor space.
Meta locks you into Meta AI. Meta AI is fine, but having the ability to pick the right model for the right task on a $299 pair of glasses makes Rokid feel less like a cheaper Meta copy and more like a smarter, more flexible system. Before I go further, I don't want to rewrite history here. Meta still has the more polished ecosystem. The microphones are more sensitive. The build feels more premium in your hand. And Meta still has a clear lead in native calling features, including WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram support, plus the ability to share your point of view on video calls, which Rokid doesn't offer. If you want the safest, smoothest, mainstream smart glasses experience right now, Meta still deserves that reputation. I have just realized those gaps matter less to me day to day than I expected. The AI update is not the main reason I keep wearing these. The real reason is simpler. These are just easier for me to wear. Rokid advertises 38.5 grams, though that's the frame without lenses. With lenses, it's closer to 45 grams, which is what you're actually wearing. But honestly, I'm not going to get into a debate about a few grams. What I can tell you is that these feel light and comfortable on my face in a way the Meta glasses just do not. The Meta Ray-Ban Gen 2 comes in at roughly the high 40s to low 50s, and the new Blazer and Scriber prescription-focused frames are about 49 grams in the standard size and 52 grams in the large size. So even the newer Meta frames are still heavier than the Rokid with lenses. What actually makes the difference isn't the raw numbers. It's how the weight sits on your face. For example, the Rokid has nose pads that distribute the weight across the bridge. The Meta uses a smooth curved bridge with no pads. After a long day, I always knew the Metas were there. The Rokid, I forget I'm wearing them. My camera take hasn't changed much. Same 12 megapixel Sony sensor as Meta. In decent light, the gap is smaller than a lot of people would expect. What I still genuinely prefer on Rokid, multiple aspect ratios including landscape. Meta doesn't give you this. and up to 10 minutes of recording versus Meta's 3-minute cap. Real practical advantage. Meta is still more polished in stabilization and processing, but Rokid is absolutely good enough for how I use camera glasses, capturing moments, not shooting a production. On audio, Meta is still clearly better. The speakers sound better, they have more bass, and there's less leakage. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But Rokid is still good enough for how I actually use these. It has a podcast EQ mode that makes voice audio noticeably clearer, and for background music, podcasts, and casual listening while I'm walking around, it does the job just fine. So this is another one of those categories where Meta wins on polish, but Rokid is good enough that it stopped being a deciding factor for me. In January, I treated translation as a fundamental miss because Rokid doesn't do the same kind of seamless real-time in-ear translation Meta is aiming for. That is no longer the case. Rokid Style now does live translation too, and this is one of the biggest areas where my original take needs updating. And what's interesting is that Rokid gives you different ways to do it. In my setup, I can choose between translation engines like Qwen, Microsoft Translation, and Rokid Local. Microsoft Translation is the big one here because that supports up to 89 languages. So the story is no longer Meta can do live translation and Rokid can't. The real story now is both can do live translation, but Rokid actually gives you broader language coverage and more translation options. And Rokid also does the other translation workflows that matter in practice. Two-way translation on your phone, Rokid can do that through Duo Talk. Looking at a sign and having it translated out loud, Rokid can do that too. So I don't think translation is a meta advantage in the way I framed it before. If anything, this is now one of the strongest reasons to take Rokid seriously. Let me show you.
We are all alone because we like that, and the relationship with foreigners, the relationship with the French language, is something a little difficult to explain.
So I feel like I'm taking into account. You learn French because there are people who come from many countries from all parts of the world and nothing more. There, she will have to try to think so. It's great. Well, beyond the cliche, French is romantic.
Hey Rokid, translate this sign.
The German text on the left translates to: tree gum is the first Swiss chewing gum from a tree that also plants trees. Unlike all
One of my most practical complaints in January, Rokid couldn't handle certain voice command workflows. That's still technically true for native commands. But in practice, there's now a workaround that closes most of the gap. You set tap and hold on the touchpad to launch your phone's assistant. Tap and hold, say what you want, done. Play Sky High by Electronomia on Spotify.
Sure, here's Sky High by Electronomia on Spotify.
That change matters more in real life than it sounds on paper. Battery. Up to 12 hours versus Meta's 8. I have almost never thought about charging these midday. The charging setup is still a genuine annoyance. Proprietary magnetic cable, not USB-C, and no charging case included by default. But Rokid gives you more backup options than Meta does. They sell an optional power capsule that adds 6+ extra charges. So, if battery anxiety is your concern, they actually have a better answer for that. The price story got more interesting, not less. Rokid is still $299 in the US. Meta just announced two new prescription-focused models this week, the Blazer and the Scriber, starting at $499. Same core experience, new prescription-focused frames. At this price gap, the comparison is a lot closer than I would have said in January. Rokid no longer feels like the cheap compromise option. It feels like the smart value pick. So here's my updated recommendation. Buy Meta, if you want the most polished smart glasses experience overall. Better audio, more seamless voice commands out of the box, native video calling, and tighter ecosystem integration if you live in WhatsApp and Instagram. However, buy Rokid if you care most about comfort, useful AI, broad translation coverage, and getting most of the functionality you'll actually use every day for a lot less money. 2 months ago, I thought Rokid was just catching up. Now, I think it has crossed the line into being the pair I'd personally recommend first for a lot of people. If you saw my January video and came back for this, thank you. I'll keep being honest with you, even when that means saying I got some things wrong. Subscribe if that's what you want from this channel. I only cover the stuff I actually use. See you next time.